Good morning. Welcome to another episode of A Cup of Coffee in the Neighborhood with Jennifer Richardson and Mark Arrington.
Morning.
So today we want to just talk about a couple things. Jen kind of came over and she wanted me to kind of discuss what it means as far as points, pricing, and interest rate goes. And then we wanted to kind of get into some more detail about our upcoming event, April 1st at 10 o'clock. We're going to have a whole neighborhood-wide Easter egg hunt. So we want to have as much participation in the neighborhood as we possibly can. We have like a 60-foot, like freaking Ninja Warrior type of bounce house thing that we ordered that we're going to put over there in the neighborhood for the kids. And I just generally think it's going to be a good time. I hope that, the neighborhood kind of participates to the utmost, puts Easter eggs out in their front yard. And then we're just going to have the kids pretty much just unleash them in the neighborhood. And they get to go like collect as many Easter eggs as they possibly can, get cracked out on candy, and then get all of their energy out in that 60-foot bounce house.
Exactly, and I think it's going to be super fun. I mean, I know that there's so many kids in the neighborhood, so many activities that we do throughout the year, and the Halloween thing was a huge hit. So
It was great.
It's going to be kind of a similar vibe. We'll have the Easter eggs out in the front yards. We're putting out flyers today.
Yep. Yes.
Right?
If you see two little girls putting a flyer in your door, they are not soliciting. They're just letting you know there's an Easter egg hunt. Please do not shoo them away.
I think that they'll let them solicit for that. I mean, I don't know.
The Girl Scouts. The Girl Scouts do it all the time, right?
I got no problems with that. So it's going to be super fun, April 1st, 10 a.m., and just a great way for the neighborhood to get together and everybody kind of connect, get to know each other. I know we've had a lot of closings in the neighborhood recently,
We have.
and so we've got a lot of new faces, and it's just really great to get everybody together and connected. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
The other update in the neighborhood, I see that they've actually done something over there at the pool. I don't know how much of it that's actually going to transpire, but something happened. So I guess that's something, right?
For sure. So, our neighbor Chad is like the pool expert, but he could explain it better than I can. But in a nutshell, the permit has been approved and the plans are in place. And so they are going to start breaking ground on that. They've put some electrical out there, and it looks like things are moving forward. So our video clearly worked.
Yes, clearly. It was all us. It was all us. Yeah. We'll take it, right? Either way, I mean, hopefully the neighborhood gets a pool. I know my kids are very excited about it. I know Caroline's excited about it.
For sure.
Just the fact that we could just be like, hey, kids, go swim while we do other things, that'd be amazing.
So ready.
All right, so let's get into kind of what it means as far as, pricing goes for an interest rate and how that actually, transpires of you paying a little extra money at closing in order to buy down your interest rate and so on and so forth. So a lot of people, the misconception is that, hey, I paid a point. And what a point is 1% of your loan amount. So if your loan amount is $100,000, a point is going to cost you $1,000.
Yep.
Right? Just hypothetically speaking in general here. So a lot of people have this misconception that, okay, cool, I paid 1%, so I paid a point, then my interest rate should drop a percentage.
That is what I hear all the time.
Every time, all the time, and that's not how it works.
Okay.
In certain like markets, it might be such a thing, but I don't really think that you really want that, because that means that the interest rates are probably like 14%. You paid a point, you got down to 13, right? So I mean that there's got to be a big gap there. But usually, what happens is you have the conversation with your loan officer, and you kind of just have to make this assessment with yourself: is, hey, do I want to pay a little bit extra at closing in order to permanently buy down my interest rate over this 15 or 30-year mortgage? All right. Sometimes, a point makes a lot of sense compared to to see what the market is doing. And that's all dealing with the secondary market and everything else. And then sometimes a point just doesn't make sense. So if you think that the interest rates are possibly going to fall in the next year, it doesn't really make a lot of sense for you to pay a point, because if you're going to refi in a year anyways, then why did you pay the point?
For sure.
But, looking at rate sheets like I do, there's certain times when you see that a point can lower an interest rate pretty significantly. For instance, it would be 6.25 and you pay a point, you go all the way down to 5.75 or something, which is a lot of money depending on the loan amount. Now, higher loan amount, the lower interest rate has a bigger effect on the payment. So if it's just $100,000, your interest rate, you're talking dollars at that point. But if you're talking about $1 million house or a $500,000 house or something else like that, dropping from a 6% interest rate to a 5.75% interest rate is going to be a significant difference.
sure.
And what I do in order to kind of explain it to my clients is I take the difference in the par rate, right? So people don't really understand what a par rate is. A par rate is an interest rate that you don't have to pay anything for.
Okay.
So that is the flat interest rate that that company is able to offer you at that time. So you don't pay any money for that interest rate. So what I do is I take the par rate and then I take it at a point or 2 points or 1.5 points or whatever else. And what you do is you come up with the difference in your principal and interest payment, because obviously the only thing that a point really affects is your principal and interest payment, because taxes and insurance are outside of our control. The only thing that we can truly control is closing costs and your principal and interest payment. So what I'll do is I'll say, okay, cool, this point will cost you $1,000, but this point saved you $10 a month.
Yep.
All right, so then I would then just divide the $1,000 by 10 to be like, okay, cool. If you kept that house for 100 months, it would make sense to pay the point.
Okay. And I love that you do that because, you know, I ask my clients, how long are you planning to stay in this house?
Right.
And that's a great question that everybody needs to consider, because sometimes it makes zero sense to pay a point. I mean, if you're only planning to stay in the house for 2 or 3 years, it may not make sense.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
No, and then one of those things too is if you think that it's going to be like a future investment property, which a lot of people, especially for VA, they do that, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
ultimately, like, the military is going to move. And it's a beautiful thing that you can buy a property, live in it for 2-3 years as your primary residence, then you get PCS orders to someplace else, and now you have an investment property that you have a very low interest rate on that you didn't have to put anything down on.
Yeah.
So I would say if you think the interest rates are going to be going up and they're going to continue to go up for the foreseeable future, and you might have the ambitions of making that a future investment property, then maybe paying a point or two makes sense.
Okay.
Right? But if you're planning on, cool, I'm gonna live in this house for 2 or 3 years and sell it, probably just doesn't make a lot of sense, especially if the point doesn't give you a ton, right? And that's why I, do that just very simple calculation. Hey, how much does the point cost? How much does it save you? And then divide it. And that tells you exactly how many months you would have to do that in order to get your money back.
For sure.
And then, obviously with VA, they have an interest rate reduction loan. And an interest rate reduction loan, you can't even do it if you can't recoup your money in 36 months. So the VA just won't allow it, because obviously the VA doesn't want people just to refinance if it's not in their best interest. And I'll tell people straight up if it's not in their best interest to pay a point or refinance or whatever else, but sometimes it really is.
For sure.
But I mean, that's ultimately, it's a beautiful thing about, this type of environment, this type of industry is, it's so unique.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if you have $300,000 in the bank, a point to you is nothing. Whereas if you're like, taking everything you got in order to cover closing costs, that 1 point could mean a lot. You know what I mean? So, and then there's also times, and it's kind of around right now, but there's also like lender credit. And the lender credit works by, say for instance, the par rate is 6%, right? And you need a little bit extra money for closing. Or you are more like, hey, I like money in my bank account more than payment centric. So what we can do is, if the par rate's 6%, we can say, cool, we're going to give you 6.25%, and then we're going to give you a half a point of credit.
Okay, so you're using that extra. That makes sense. Yeah.
So now we're locking above par, but locking above par allows me to give you money for closing costs. So
Very cool.
it just kind of all depends out. I mean, shoot, back in 2020, like, you just covered everything with lender credit, because you're like, okay, cool. Here's a 2.875. I can make it a 3, and you don't have to bring anything to closing. And then everybody's like, yeah, let's do this.
Yeah, for sure. That's
it's
really helpful.
It's a little bit different environment. And I was actually mistaken. I was looking at 2022's Fed calendar, but yeah, I actually think that their meeting is this week.
Okay.
So, and it's going to be dependent. Some people are still saying they might do 25 basis points. Some people say 50. We'll see. Obviously, I just think that America just wants some stability
Mm-hmm.
for a little bit.
Yeah.
So that would be nice, but hey, I'm not the Fed chairman by any means, so
know.
I guess
I
we'll
don't
have to
wanna
see what
be.
happens.
That's too much heavy lifting for me. Just keep slinging the houses here. you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Yep.
So as far as real estate goes, so we talked about points.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about our awesome Easter egg hunt on April 1st. What have you kind of seen over the last week? Anything really changed?
Yeah, so nothing's really changed. I mean, the bulk of my buyer clients are about half investors, half people relocating into the area still. We are starting to see fewer offers on properties, so still
That's
some
good.
multiple offers, right, depending on the price point, but fewer of those. So, I'm seeing like one to two. Like that's not terrible. And as opposed to like, okay, we got 19 offers on this property, or
Is 1 to 2
whatever it is.
more normal?
It is, but Mark, I attended a luncheon last week, and it was this like legends in real estate. So the speaker panel were people that had been in real estate for like 35, 40 years in our market. Okay, and they indicated they were like multiple offers, like we're ready for this to go away. And I forgot that we did have that time, like because we've been operating at such a fast pace that when I first got started in the industry, we didn't see it, and it was very rare to go in multiple offers, and so we're starting to see that kind of dissipate a little bit. And it's going to be nice. I mean, it's just something that I think we all need, and hearing some of those, I guess, wiser people, or whatever, folks with a little bit more experience in the industry, hearing them say, hey, we're ready to get back to this. It's kind of it's like it brings a sense of calm, because they've seen every type of market, they've been through, 06, 07 too.
Right.
And then they're seeing it again. So it's almost like the sense of calm that they're bringing and saying, hey, we're things are leveling out. We're going to be okay.
It's just everything goes in cycles, right?
Yes, for sure. But
circles.
You got to pivot and adapt, just like the mortgage industry, and adapting to the client needs and offering those different products that you guys offer. I mean, we just got to constantly assess what's going on around us and adapt to it. So
right.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, those who adapt survive.
That's right. Well,
So,
good talk.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, all right, guys. Well, we hope that you got some information out of this, and those of y'all in the neighborhood, we hope to see y'all out there April 1st at 10 o'clock for our Easter egg hunt in the neighborhood. And other than that, I hope y'all have a great week, and we'll see y'all next Monday.
See you guys.